Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good.
Debra, welcome to the podcast studio.
Thank you.
It's been way too long.
It's been a long time. Last time you were in the dark, dingy basement. Now you're in this brightly lit, very manila-walled room.
So we're going to have a way more bright and lively conversation.
There we go.
Right. It's the best to work with you on so many levels. I tell you that all the time.
Thank you.
And one of the pieces of your role here at Bethany as a deacon, who is responsible for thinking, whose call, I should say, is for the Word and the world.
Yes.
Is that a good way to put it?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so one of the pieces, you are in charge of our outreach ministries and working with that group all the time, but kind of as a subset of that is our social justice ministry committee. And why don't you just start by talking about some of the interesting things they've done since you came on board? Wow, has it been almost two and a half years? Yeah.
About almost, yeah.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So just talk a little bit about some of the things, and then we'll get into the reason I wanted to bring you on, obviously, is to talk about the upcoming events. But I think it's good to do a look back at some of the other stuff that's happened.
Absolutely. So I stepped into an already active committee, was asked to take a lead on that, and was excited to do so. And so the individuals who had been leading it kind of gave me an overview of what they'd done and what they were looking at. And they had tried to do quarterly themes. So that was the intention when we started. But as you know, a big part of my role here at Bethany is to also lead our children's ministry. And so this fall, that took a big precedence. So now we're kind of coming back, and we're going full into social justice, which excites me tremendously. In the past, you have led some sessions on Saturdays called Sophia's Breakfast around different themes, from civil rights to, gosh, you can tell us more about all the themes that you've done. One of the things we did here at Bethany last February or March, we had folks listen to a podcast called It Happened in Alabama. And that was really intense. It was, I want to say, a 10-part series of an individual who was from Minnesota, following his roots back to Alabama, learning about his dad's upbringing during the Jim Crow days. And so then we had a conversation about that, and it was very engaging, good group of people, lots of great conversation. We followed up with a book study in August. And of course, I'm having a complete blank because I have two other books in front of me right now. And I apologize for that. And I'm trying to remember, what did we talk about in August? And it'll come back to me and I'll let you know. But again, it was a good discussion. We had folks there from both sides of the aisle, I would say, politically, talking about, and I want to say it was immigration. And I'm having a moment. So ask me that one again.
I should know it too, because I'm the one that did the communications for it. But
I know, and it's just
there. In the past with the quarterly themes, what we had done is kind of engaged a quarterly theme, and then the Sophia's Breakfast Church was a culmination, a final point where we got together for breakfast, for worship, and for this intentional discussion around homelessness was one, civil rights was another, and those have been in the past as well. But now, kind of shifting into different iteration of what this committee will say, or what this committee will do, and the discussions that it'll bring forward. And so you're doing another book study.
We are.
Which have been so successful here. I feel like that is an underutilized piece of Bethany's repertoire.
I agree. I think the hardest part is deciding what book we'll study, what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So we've chosen a book for February. We're going to be getting together on February 22nd following the second service, and we're discussing the book The God Who Sees by Karen Gonzalez. This is a book by an immigrant who immigrated from Guatemala. She was 9.5, came with her family to Los Angeles. So I'm in chapter 4. Again, it's not till February 22nd, so I'm on my way. But I found this morning I read 3 chapters because I couldn't get enough. Her writing is so easy to read. It's so personal. Yeah. And again, she speaks at first as a young child. She talks about the first chapter is baptism. She goes, I don't remember my own baptism, but I remember my brother and sister's baptism. And I remember what I wore because I was so excited to wear my new dress. And I remember how I felt. And I remember that I didn't understand anything. And then she goes on. And now the chapter I'm on is about her first communion. Again, she went through the classes. This was in Guatemala. She went through the preparation for communion with the understanding from the church that only if you go through classes can you then have first communion, because then you'll understand it. She goes, I didn't understand it, but I got to wear my pretty white dress. And I just love that.
What do you, as a children's ministry guru,
I don't say guru.
what do you take away from that reflection? That's really fascinating.
I think it's fascinating, and I love it because we all learn in different ways and at different ages and seasons in life, right? So just because we take a class doesn't mean we understand. It means we've been exposed, right? We've dipped our finger in the water of whatever the topic is. Something we've done this fall with children's ministry is we've picked up a new rotational model, and we are doing the same theme for an entire month. So, for example, January we did the disciples, and if y'all listen to the children's sermon on Sunday, you could hear the children telling me the names of many of the disciples.
Right.
They've been learning about them every Sunday and every Wednesday the whole month of January. In the fall, we did a whole month on Joseph, the brother Joseph that was sold into to Pharaoh's, and the kids know the story. So again, the repetition, because we started noticing when we did just 1 week at a time, it just wasn't enough. So we're now kind of digging a little bit deeper, and not saying that now they get everything, but they have a better exposure and understanding of some of these Bible stories. So next time they hear it, they'll go, oh, that's right, I remember. Yes, there were 12 disciples. Yeah. Now this month of February, we're doing Jesus Feeds the 5,000. I was helping Tammy Craven last night. I was her assistant. She was teaching the class, and she had a song, and it was great. It was to B-I-N-G-O, bingo, the song that we all know because as a child it was ingrained. And it's Jesus Feeds 5,000. And it has a cute little refrain, 5 bread, 2 fish, 5 bread, 2 fish, Jesus. And so they were, by the end of the evening, they were all singing the song. So if you ask them how many breads and how many fish, they would be able to tell you. And they would also be able to tell you the 2 disciples that were there with Jesus.
What I think is so fascinating, especially this woman from the book who confesses, like, she didn't know all the details, but can remember it as a special moment.
Yes.
And we often approach children's faith formation in that way, like, oh, we got to teach them all the details. I mean, I'm teaching confirmation this year, and there's a whole host of things that we're supposed to know, and I even have all sorts of different Bethany members coming to me, like, they really should be learning this and this.
Yeah.
Okay. Good point. Good point. Yes.
Yeah.
But why we have this mindset that we need to get them to this place of completion and competency, and then within the life of the church, we go through the same liturgical cycle every year. Yeah. It's not like we've accomplished Lent by the time we got to the conclusion. It's like, no, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen again.
And you're going to be reminded of different ways of the themes of this season and why that's important.
Right.
And the readings that we do, it's a 3-year cycle. Like, you're going to hear this story again in 3 years. And so we have that understanding for our own lives and our own journey of faith. But when it comes to children, it's like, we got to get to the completion.
It's almost that more of that school mindset.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really happy with this new rotation model that we've picked up, because it does allow for that. And then because it's kind of a 3-year cycle as well, there'll be all new themes next year. That won't, maybe the only one that'll repeat is birth of Jesus, right? Because that's kind of important that you keep repeating that.
Well, we weren't going to talk about children's ministry, but I'm glad
I know, it just came in there.
And I mean, it's part of the book, too. Do you know, I mean, why is the book called The God Who Sees?
So she is looking at immigration, and she's looking at the stories in the Bible that speak to immigration. And the first one she brings up is Abram and Sarai, and their journey. And she speaks about it in ways that are surprising, especially if you know the story well. Yes, they migrated, they immigrated, they moved from one place to another following a sense of call. But some things that happened along the way, she brings up that we might look at and go, oh, I don't know that I ever studied that before. When Abram has Sarai come as his sister,
right,
and then basically sells her into the ruling class at the time. And some people today would say that might be trafficking, right? And that's a topic we don't generally associate with Abraham and Sarah. But it's looking at some bigger themes.
Wow.
So how do we delve into the Bible and look at these stories and see how they relate to what's happening in our lives today? So I think it's going to be a very intense discussion, honestly, on February 22nd, because that's how she starts the book.
with that Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're,
Yeah.
that's, we were talking before we hit record too, just about how prevalent immigration is within the scriptures.
Absolutely.
And it's neat that she's kind of, I'm wondering if she's going to, I'm sure she'll pick up on other stories as
Already,
well.
yes, already has.
And just that reality for her, from a personal perspective, of having experienced that type of journeying from one land to another. And, you know, people like to quibble about, like, is it immigration or not? I mean, I heard, we had someone preach a sermon, or a reflection, Carol Holler, over the Christmas holiday. And she was reflecting on the ways that Joseph and Mary had to be refugees, and they had to flee Herod's oppression to go to Egypt.
Absolutely.
And I posted that online, and some anonymous internet commenter said, like, actually, Egypt was a part of the empire, so it wasn't a refugee because they were traveling within the nation.
Within the nation. Interesting.
I think you, right, like, it seems like you sort of missed the point.
I think they missed the point, and I think
like, they were running.
They were running from danger. Yes, they were absolutely.
And that's something we can all resonate with. Well, hopefully we not all haven't experienced something like that, but like to have the compassion for people on the move and people in vulnerable situations, and that's what seems to be what the Bible is constantly calling us to.
Absolutely.
Is care for the orphan, those without parents, care for the widow, and in those days to be a widow was an incredible knock against you in terms of just your own livelihood in society, and care for the immigrant. Those three things show up again and again and again.
Absolutely.
And for us to reflect on, and so how, I'm curious, just in your own mind, how do we process that in our current situation? Because immigration is such a hot topic.
It's a hot topic, and it's difficult. It's difficult because every individual situation is different.
Yes.
Every single situation. And there are thousands and millions of people who have come to the United States as immigrants through the legal process, right? There is a process, but that doesn't accept everyone. And there are people who come here seeking a better life, a safer life, because they're running, fleeing oppression. So this 9.5-year-old Karen didn't know the reasons her family was fleeing from Guatemala. She had a memory and has a memory of an idyllic childhood in Guatemala. And it's the land of eternal spring. I mean, that's her memory of Guatemala. Yeah. It's not a place she ever wanted to leave. Again, I'm not deep enough into the story to know all of the background of why her parents left, but it had to have been quite serious for them to leave their homeland that was so beautiful. Yeah. Right? And it was such a community that they were all intricately a part of, and to leave it for a land they didn't know anything about. And so a lot of people come to the United States because they have a vision. It's paved with golden bricks, and and no matter what you tell them,
the land of opportunity.
The land of opportunity, and yet we know how difficult it is, and we know how much more difficult it is for an immigrant, especially if they don't speak the language. Yeah. But again, they come with such a hope and a desire. And so the more you are able to meet individuals who have come to the United States from all different backgrounds for all different reasons, you take on a different understanding of immigration than you might be seeing in news clips. Right. And that's what I really would encourage individuals to participate in the book study, to learn about her particular story, to learn from others in the group who will be there, who will share their own stories, and what that image of the immigrant really truly is. It's not the news clips we're hearing. It's just not an accurate portrayal of who we are as a nation of immigrants. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever studied your own family history, if you've had a chance to do that. On my dad's side of the family, his mom's family has done family reunions since 1985. First it was every 5 years, then every 3, now every 2, because we realized our family members are passing away more quickly, and we love each other, we want to get together. And my sister is a true historian, works for Library of Congress, previously with National Archives, and did some history of our family on the patriarchal side, on Grandma, and went back all the way to England, to the English Channel, where they came from, came to Maryland and settled. Fascinating. And then I even did a deeper dive and found that before they were in England, they were in Normandy, France. Fascinating. I had no idea this was my background. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, I studied French in middle school. It was not a good fit. Wasn't for me at all, but there must have been a reason I was drawn to it, right? It's in my DNA. But again, we all come for different reasons. Right? And why did this particular person in this family come to the United States at the time that he did? Right. What was the reason? Right? And yet we're all a product of that find it fascinating.
I'd love to know. I know my whole family is very German in heritage. And actually, I had a Bethany member who was traveling in Germany this summer who stayed at the Preisinger Althaus. And it was like,
wow.
This has been owned by the family Preisinger since 1602 or something like that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So, but I don't know the story of when they made the trip over to the United States, or who of my relatives was the first to make that journey, and why. And why.
Yeah, and I wish more Americans, I know genealogy has become really big in the last 20, 30 years, but I really encourage more folks to delve into that in their own history, because surprises come up. And you go into deep rabbit trails, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this about my family. I didn't know this. And again, it teaches you more about our nation and who we are and how we've been created to be this nation that continues to draw people in. And of course, yes, we want there to be a legal pathway, but it's not that easy.
No, and I appreciate you saying the legal pathway too, because I think both political sides would be in fervent agreement. We need immigration reform.
Absolutely.
They can't agree on how to do it.
No.
But they know, like, and we have to have, if you don't have borders, then you don't have a country, blah, blah, blah. Like, we've heard all the sound clips and news bites. But it's also true. And I don't think any politician is lobbying for completely open borders.
Right.
But more so, from a person of faith perspective, our call is to care for people who are in vulnerable positions.
Absolutely. And to welcome.
And we can separate that from all the politicalization that goes into this.
Exactly.
And say, like, yes, we can still care for people who are hurting or who are struggling, even if we don't fully agree with whatever policy might be in place that says this, that, or the other thing. And I mean, what you're talking about is recognizing our own immigration stories that are a part of us. That creates the compassion.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh my gosh, like, this is my ancestor's story in a different way. And how can I now come to understand the stories of others? And it's also what reading this book and discussing it will hopefully do for us.
I hope so.
Is just develop that understanding, that compassion.
Right, and that broader lens.
So what are you hoping, if we reach the end of February 22nd? I mean, probably number one is that we don't get in any fist fights. Because it is such a hot topic.
It won't
I don't want to try and gloss over that. But yeah, what are you hoping people get out of the discussion, and what's fostered as a result?
What I'm really hoping is it's a platform and opportunity for conversation around issues of immigration that are so in the news right now. And we don't feel we have a safe place to maybe express our views, and I hope that Bethany feels like that safe place for people, no matter what side of the conversation they're on, that we can come together and have a conversation and delve back into the Bible, which is our guiding North Star.
Absolutely.
Right? That is what guides us, and there are laws on the books that are around immigration that are hurting the immigrants. So how do we look at laws and then be reminded that our higher law is God's word? And how do we live our lives faithfully with that in mind? So I hope it's a good balanced conversation. I really do. We ordered 20 books. They've sold out already. I ordered 10 more, which means there's folks who are reading the book and ready to engage.
That's fantastic. No, and I like what you're saying too about laws. I mean, I think also of when Jesus calls us to visit those who are in prison. And it's not to say that there's something just inherent in there as part of our calling. It's like, people make mistakes or do things illegally. Absolutely. And it's not that we're affirming that or justifying it, but we're still caring for them.
Absolutely.
He doesn't say, bust them out of jail because it's this is nothing that they should have to fall victim to.
No.
It's about finding compassion even if people find themselves in those situations.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Well, then let's shift gears slightly to the next event, because 2 weeks later,
2 weeks later,
is this big meal that I'm really excited for. Give us the details about this.
I will.
March 8th.
Okay. So the title of our event on March 8th is Cocina Libre, and there is a book called Cocina Libre, and this is a group of individuals that is being led by a professor at DU, professor of psychology, Dr. Julia Rancoroni. She is an immigrant herself from Argentina who came to the States, studied at Harvard, went on with her studies, and is an amazing faculty member and has started listening to immigrant stories. And it'll be interesting to hear from her how this all started, because I don't know the ethos of how it started. But she started meeting immigrant chefs and hearing their stories, and decided to start working with them to share their stories, a broader perspective. And that's what this first book, Cocina Libre, is. It's a book of immigrant stories from individuals around the world that have come to Denver, and they have had a passion for cooking, and they have started food trucks and restaurants, and there are recipes from each and every one of them, and pictures that are just, honestly, I can't wait to make some of these. And then they created this organization that, again, these immigrant chefs, she started realizing they needed help with licensing, with certification, and so they've been working on that. And then she realized people were interested in their stories, so they started holding workshops around the community in museums, libraries, churches, having people come in to share a meal that's prepared by the immigrant chefs, and then to watch a documentary. They have 2 documentaries they've now created around immigrant stories, and then to share in conversation with individuals that attend the event some of their own stories of immigration, and to hear from one another in a conversation. So they kind of guide the discussion after the meal, after the documentary. And I'm just really looking forward for this opportunity at Bethany. We're opening it up to the larger community as well.
What an amazing, what an amazing project. Because I think about how food always tells a story.
Always.
And there's so much, every single person's like, oh, my grandmother's chicken noodle soup, or every Christmas we make Aunt Betsy's special, stolen bread recipe, whatever it is, fruitcake. But there's such a story, and food is so cultural.
Oh, 100%.
And so it brings those stories with it as well. Yeah. My brother-in-law is from Senegal, West Africa. So similar story to you and Antonia.
I love this.
My sister-in-law went to Peace Corps in Senegal, and that's where she met Mamadou. And then he came stateside. They got married. They have 3 kids. They live in Buffalo now. And we were out there in Buffalo for my birthday trip back in the beginning of December. And it's just the best, because we go to their house, and whenever we're there, I'm just like, he loves to be able to cook for the whole family. And he always makes, there's 2 very traditional Senegalese dishes. And so I can't remember which one of the ones we had when we were there, but he makes the whole dish, and then we spread the blankets on the floor, and you all sit on the floor, and you wash your hands, and then you eat with your hands. Right. But it's such a rich communal experience, and it's like such a gift that Mamadou's so excited to give.
Yes,
and have for the family too.
Yes, and I'm sure for your children too, such a unique, different experience
Absolutely.
than they've ever had anywhere else, right? Yeah.
And they'll have so many memories of that, because it's every time we go and visit them, at least one of the nights he wants to cook, and he cooks something like that for us. And so, but to create more of those types of moments, like that's what a cookbook like this can do, I think, in a lot of ways. And it's neat that it has the stories connected to them as well.
Yes.
And so that's part of the experience with Mamadou and the family, is because he'll kind of tell us, inherently my kids will ask questions like, hey, did you eat like this? Like, yeah.
Right.
We get everyone in the village together, and especially on certain holidays or whatnot.
Yeah.
This is what we would eat.
Yeah.
So have you made any of these dishes?
I haven't. It's so funny. I got this book right before the holidays, and I went out and I bought all the ingredients to make the tamales of green chili, because being New Mexico, I love green chili.
Yeah, there you go.
And I had all the ingredients, and then we had a full household over the holidays, and the ingredients literally sat on the counter, and Tony's like, are we going to do anything with them? So no, I bought the wrappings for the tamales, the green chilies, and no, I haven't made them yet. So I have it marked. It's marked right here. It's from Homero Ocon from Durango, Mexico. So the tamales, I promised to make them because they sound and look so good. But there's empanadas, there's tostadas. And they're all over the world too. Bangladesh beef stew.
Wow.
Black bean pupusas, vegetable stew, from all the different countries you can imagine, arepas with black beans, green chilaquiles. So we have Venezuela, we have Mexico, we have Guatemala, we have Colombia, and then they have a second book. The second book is called Sazón y Liberación, Seasoning and Liberation, and I haven't ordered that one yet, but I can't wait to see that. And they will have their books available for sale at Bethany on the 8th. And all the funding, all the funds that come in for this, they have an organization that all the money goes to. So it's just a great opportunity.
What are you, in a similar question,
Mm-hmm.
what are you hoping people experience, take home, get out of that experience?
Exposure to great food.
Yeah.
Right. Learn about some local chefs that have some great restaurants.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and they do catering, so that'll be something for us to all learn. But again, open conversation to learn and to share our stories at Bethany. We in May are having an all-in retreat, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for Bethany. And my hope is that this event on the 8th starts the conversation for us to talk about where we've come from, where we are, and where we're going. I just think it's a foundation for our big event in May.
Very good. Mm-hmm. I think so too, and I think food has that way of creating the conversation. It's the Sophia's Breakfast Church. That was the design and the idea behind it, is that we can have better discussions if we're breaking bread together than if we're just sitting in a classroom or on two sides of an aisle and standing up at the microphone to bicker.
Right.
No, but if it's like, hey, pass the soup. It's very different dynamics, and there's just something that happens when you eat together that lowers the temperature.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking, when you said that, I was thinking about, imagine an event like this with no food, and imagine just looking at recipes and just sitting in straight road chairs and taking notes on someone instead of kind of sharing a lived experience.
Yeah.
So different, right?
So
just
different.
The sense, the smells, the conversation, the memories. The food that we share may pull a memory from someone else, like, oh, this is like blah, blah, blah. So when I hear Norwegians talk about lutefisk, anybody know lutefisk? I do. Unfortunately, my mom never did make that, even though we have a good.
No, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but my grandmother did, because we're Norwegian ancestry on mom's side. But in the Dominican Republic, we have bacalao, which is salted cod from Norway that Dominicans prepare in a completely different way. It's wonderful. And I make a really good bacalao. So when I hear people talk about lutefisk, I'm like, oh, someday we should have both next to each other and see how they compare.
One time I was, at St. Olaf College, they always had like a Norwegian feast during the Christmas festival season, when a whole bunch of alums would come to campus and they would serve lutefisk in one of the cafeteria lines. And I was like fundraising for some group, and someone said, if you eat a whole piece of lutefisk, I'll donate $10. That's the only time I ever had
And so you did it for that. Okay. Wow.
It wasn't good.
No,
it wasn't good.
And again, it's just how you prepare it, right? Yeah.
Well, the other thing about the food piece of it that I just think is so fascinating is how much of our biblical heritage and story revolves around food. We already discussed all of the ways that immigration shows up in the Bible, but food is a continual mark.
Yes.
And even, our sacramental practice of having a meal every Sunday.
Every Sunday in the Lutheran tradition.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I was brought up in the Lutheran church and I never understood it. Again, as a child. Was in the Methodist tradition where it's once a month, and there's tradition behind that because the circuit riders in the Methodist church could only get to churches once a month, so they just continued the practice decades into the church practice, right? This is why we've always done it. They don't know the history of it, but that's where it came from. And then to come back to the Lutheran church and to have it every single week. There's something so beautiful and powerful, and every single meal feels different.
Yeah.
That's what I think is powerful as well.
And I think it's really beautiful that Jesus decided to try to convey the depth of the promises of God being revealed through a simple sharing of bread and wine. And that there's just something that happens when you eat together that's different and that's mystical. And that is actually the very heart of our Lutheran theology, is to say, like, no, we're going to share bread and wine, and in some way that we can't understand or articulate or comprehend with our tiny human mind,
Right.
Jesus is present.
And no matter what age we introduce it to children, right, we won't say it doesn't matter, but none of us fully grasp or understand it, right? No matter how much study we've done, we again trust there's a mystical side to it where the presence is there. And it's different every Sunday. And it's just like when we open the Bible, how even though we've read the same stories over and over, it's the living word. And it changes based on circumstance. So right now, immigration stories in the Bible are rising up off the pages in ways they may not have for people several years back.
Sure.
And more people are being drawn back to the Bible to understand our foundation and what do we believe as Christians about immigration in particular.
Yeah. I mean, to that point, too, I'm just remembering, it was such a profound moment. I was I was at like some pastor conference, and we were doing Lectio Divina, and so as a group, and in Lectio Divina, the practice is the first time through, you just say a word that sticks out, and you don't explain it. So we read this passage, and you just are supposed to share one word. And I don't even remember what the passage was, but I remember one of the other pastors there, the word that he chose was Syria, because it mentioned Syria. And this was at the moment when Syria was going through all of the uprising. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I have never put together all of the pieces of it, or just how old that country is, that it is in our scriptures, and that still today, which was part of the tragedy of everything that happened there, was these incredible old cities being bombed out that had been there for thousands of years. But yeah, just as an example, the context of how you read this scripture causes new things to bubble to the top, which to me speaks to the way that God is still at work.
Absolutely.
And calling for our attention, and calling for our compassion, and our learning, and our community processing of all of this, by the way that these things bubble to the top.
They do. And they keep us wide awake. Because when we have those aha moments and we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see, I'd never even heard, even realized Syria was mentioned, and now it, like you said, it bubbles up. And it's that what keeps drawing me back into scripture, and what excites me to teach it to children, right? Is every time we read and hear something different based on our life situation, the world. And that, to me, if that isn't enough of a draw to pull people in, it's not static. It's not static.
And it speaks to bringing it all back around to the wisdom of this new rotational model for our children's ministry, of have them study the same story in different ways. In
different ways. Oh my gosh. It's
4 weeks in a row.
Drama, art, food, music, you name it. We're doing all that with the children.
Yeah. That's so neat. Well, and these are really neat ways, too, of having a book and a memoir that's looking at the stories of Scripture, but also telling a personal story. And then, obviously, like sharing a meal together, hearing these stories, tasting these recipes. That'll be an incredible thing, too. Thank you for bringing these pieces to Bethany.
Of course. I'm looking forward to the opportunity. I really am. And I really just encourage as many folks as possible to come and participate. And even if you haven't read the book, that's okay. Come for the conversation, come to learn about what the book is about, and just to share.
Yeah, it's part of the healthy dialogue that we're constantly trying to promote. Yeah, and thank you for taking that so seriously. Well, there you go. February 22nd for the book study, March 8th for the meal. All of it's on the Bethany website under the Bethany News tab. We'd love to see you there participating in both of these events. But as always, thank you for listening. Deacon Debra, thank you for taking time. I know you have to write a sermon now.
I have a sermon to write. I do. Thank you.
And you, please share this conversation with family and friends. And as always, thanks for listening. Stay in peace.
Thank you for listening to the Together for Good podcast. If you'd like more resources for your walk of faith, please visit our website, bethany-denver.org, or download our mobile app by searching Bethany Connect in your phone's app store.